The bright lights of the command deck reflected off June's dark eyes as he stood with his hands behind his back. Around him, the crew of the Earth Alliance vessel Dauntless moved with purpose, each person focused on their tasks. But June watched. Always watching. "Status report," Director Song said from the captain's chair. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples who believed in talking first and fighting only when needed. Taiho, the communications officer and June's only real friend on the ship, turned from his station. "Sir, we're picking up a distress signal from Research Outpost 7. It's cutting in and out, but—" He paused, listening to his earpiece. "They're under attack." The command deck fell silent. Humans had not faced hostile aliens in over 15 years. Director Song stood up straight. "Set course for the outpost, maximum speed." June said nothing. He never said much, which made some of the crew nervous. But Director Song knew better. He had worked with June for 5 years and understood that the quiet, tactical specialist was always thinking, always planning. "June, what do you make of this?" Director Song asked. June stepped forward. "We should prepare for combat, sir. Research Outpost 7 is too far from disputed borders for this to be a mistake." His voice was soft but firm. Everyone listened when June spoke because he only talked when he had something important to say. 3 hours later, the Dauntless dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the research outpost. What they found made even the most experienced crew members gasp. The outpost, once a shining example of human engineering, was now broken apart. Pieces of metal and glass floated in space. The main structure had a huge hole torn through its center. "Life signs?" Director Song asked, his voice tight. "None detected, sir," answered the sensor operator. Taiho suddenly stiffened at his station. "Director, I'm picking up a ship approaching. It's huge." On the main screen, a vessel appeared that made the Dauntless look tiny in comparison. Its hull was dark purple with sharp angles that reminded June of a predator's teeth. "Unknown vessel, this is Director Song of the Earth Alliance vessel Dauntless. Please identify yourself," Song said, following proper first contact procedures. At first, there was no answer. Then the screen flickered and showed an alien bridge much larger than their own. In the center stood a tall figure with 4 arms and mottled gray skin. Its eyes were large and completely black, with no whites or visible pupils. When it opened its mouth to speak, everyone saw rows of small, sharp teeth. "Earth vessel," the alien said in surprisingly good English. "I am Commander Vrul of the Vrex expansion fleet. Your outpost was in our path." June noted how the alien didn't apologize or show any regret. He also noticed small details about the alien bridge, the weapons at each station, the way other Vrex moved with military precision. Director Song kept his voice diplomatic. "Commander Vrul, you have destroyed an unarmed research facility and killed Earth citizens. This is an act of war." The Vrex commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "War? Your species is barely space-capable by our standards. The outpost was a minor inconvenience that we removed. Now we come with an offer." As the conversation continued, June moved closer to Taiho's station and whispered, "Record everything, every word, every movement in the background." Taiho nodded without looking away from his screen. On the main display, Commander Vrul continued. "The Vrex require the resources of your border systems. You will withdraw all forces and colonies from these areas within 3 of your Earth days." A star map appeared showing that the Vrex wanted nearly a quarter of human space. "That's impossible," Director Song said. "Those systems contain millions of human colonists." The Vrex commander blinked his large black eyes slowly. "Then move. Them. Or don't. It makes no difference to us." June studied the alien's movements, the way it held its 4 arms, the casual tone it used when talking about millions of lives. He had faced many opponents in tactical simulations and real border skirmishes, but something about the Vrex made his skin crawl. "Commander Vrul," Director Song said, his voice firm, "humanity will not be bullied. We request time to consult with Earth Alliance leadership." "You have 3 days," the Vrex commander said. "We have studied your species. You are physically weaker than most spacefaring races. Your reflexes are slower. Your technology is less advanced than what we have. Seen elsewhere. The alien leaned forward. Fighting us would be unwise. Throughout this exchange, June hadn't spoken a word. He just watched, his eyes narrowing slightly as he processed every detail. Well? The alien commander asked, seeming to notice June's intense focus. Does the quiet one have nothing to say? Director Song glanced at June, surprised that the alien had singled him out. June stepped forward, his face calm. He studied the Vrex for a long moment before speaking. I'm curious about something, Commander. The 3 systems you conquered before reaching our space. How long did those species fight before falling? The question seemed to amuse the Vrex. The Tellarites surrendered immediately. The Grish fought for 2 of your months, the Novenians. The alien made that same laughing sound. The Novenians lasted almost a year, but in the end they too fell. June nodded slowly. I see. Thank you for the information. The Vrex commander seemed confused by June's simple response. He had expected fear, anger, or at least more questions. 3 days, the alien repeated, then cut the transmission. The command deck erupted into urgent conversation. Officers argued about potential military responses, diplomatic options, evacuation plans. Director Song called for order, then began issuing commands to contact Earth Alliance headquarters. Amidst the chaos, June remained perfectly still, his eyes fixed on the spot where the alien's image had been. Taeho approached his friend, concerned by his unusual stillness. June, what are you thinking? For a long moment, June didn't respond. When he finally turned to Taeho, his eyes held a focus that Taeho had seen only a few times before. The communications. Officer felt a chill run down his spine. He called it June's quiet mode, when June went so still and silent that you could almost forget he was in the room. It always happened right before June did something brilliant, or terrible. I need all the data we have on the Vrex, June said quietly. Every detail, no matter how small. I'll get it, but do you have a plan? Taeho asked. June didn't answer. Instead, he walked directly to Director Song, who was in the middle of a heated discussion with his senior officers. Sir, June interrupted. All heads turned toward him, surprised. June rarely interrupted anyone. Yes, tactical specialist, Director Song asked. Give me 3 days, June said, his voice carrying across the now silent command deck. Director Song stared at him. 3 days for what? June's expression didn't change, but his eyes held an intensity that made several officers step back. 3 days to show the Vrex why they should have run when the human got quiet. The journey back to Luna Base took 18 hours. During that time, June did not sleep. Instead, he sat in the ship's data center, reviewing every piece of information about the Vrex encounter. He studied the way they moved, how they spoke, and the design of their ships. When the Dauntless docked at Luna Base, Earth's main military headquarters, everyone expected a long meeting with high-ranking officials. What no one expected was how quickly June would become the center of attention, too. Meeting room was large, with a round table where 15 of Earth's top military leaders sat. Director Song presented their encounter with the Vrex, showing the recordings and explaining the 3-day ultimatum. These aliens have already destroyed 3 civilizations, said Admiral Park, an older woman with short gray hair. How can we fight them with just 3 days to prepare? Director Song looked at June. My tactical specialist believes he has a solution. All eyes turned to June, who stood up and walked to the main display. He touched a few buttons, and the image of the Vrex commander appeared. The Vrex think they know us, June said, his voice quiet but clear. They think we are weak because we are physically smaller. They think we are simple because our technology looks basic to them. He paused. But they don't understand humans. Admiral Park frowned. What exactly are you suggesting, tactical specialist? I need a small team, June said. I need Engineer Minji from Weapons Development, Captain Hyun and his Special Forces Squad, and Intelligence Officer Do Hyun. Those are very specific requests, said another general. Why these people? June didn't answer directly. Instead, he pointed to the image of the Vrex. Notice how they communicated during our meeting. They use sounds and body movements constantly. Even in the background, their crew never stops making noise. He played more footage, zooming in on different Vrex crew members. They evolved as pack hunters. They rely on constant communication. That's interesting, Admiral Park said, but how does this help us fight them? June finally turned to face the room. Because humans evolve differently. When we hunt, when we prepare to strike, we get quiet. The room fell silent as everyone considered his words. Give me these people and the resources they need, June said. Let the Vrex see our fleet gathering at the border. Let them think we're preparing for a conventional war. But my team will be the real response. After 2 hours of debate, Admiral Park finally agreed to June's plan, though she didn't look happy about it. You have your team, tactical specialist. But remember, millions of lives depend on your success. June nodded once, then left to find his team. Minji's workshop was filled with half-built weapons and tools scattered everywhere. When June entered, she looked up from a device she was welding, her protective mask hiding her face. Tactical specialist June, she said, lifting her mask. I heard you were looking for me. June nodded. I need weapons that can disable Vrex systems without destroying their ships. Minji raised an eyebrow. That's specific. Why not just blow them up? Because, June said, stepping closer to show her his data pad, I noticed something about their ship designs. Their communication systems are everything to them. As he explained his observations about Vrex technology, Minji's eyes grew wider. I think I can work with this, but I'll need help. You'll have it, June promised. Captain Hyun was training with his squad when June found him. Unlike most military officers, Hyun preferred to work directly with his team. He was shorter than June, but built like he was made of stone. June, he said with a grin. They had worked together years ago on a border mission that had nearly gone wrong. I heard you're putting together a suicide squad. Not suicide, June said. Just unconventional. Hyun dismissed his team and walked with June around the training area. Tell me what you need. I need soldiers who can move silently, work in small groups, and follow complex plans, June said. That's my entire team, Hyun said proudly. But what's the mission? June showed him footage of the Vrex ships. We need to get onto their communication relay stations without being detected. Hyun whistled. That's ambitious. But if anyone can figure out how to do it, it's you. He clapped June on the shoulder. Remember that time on Europa when you didn't speak for 3 days, then came up with the plan that saved our entire unit? June almost smiled. This is like that, but bigger. Intelligence Officer Do Hyun was harder to find. He worked in a secure section of Luna Base where few people had access. When June finally got permission to see him, he found a thin man surrounded by screens displaying information in multiple languages. The quiet man himself, Do Hyun said when June entered. I was wondering when you'd come find me. You've heard about the Vrex, June said. It wasn't a question. I've been studying them since your ship sent the first report, Do Hyun confirmed. Fascinating species, evolved from pack predators on a world with few places to hide. They hunt by coordination, an overwhelming force. And their weaknesses? June asked. Do Hyun smiled slightly. Their greatest strength is also their weakness. They cannot operate effectively without constant communication. They don't understand stealth or silent coordination because their evolution never required it. June nodded. I need everything you have on their social structure, their communication patterns, their technology, already prepared, Do Hyun said, handing June a data chip. But there's something else you should know. He lowered his voice. The Vrex have conquered 3 systems before reaching us, yes, but they've attempted to conquer 5. 2 species, managed to drive them away. This caught June's attention. How? That's the interesting part, Do Hyun said. The records aren't clear. The Vrex don't like to discuss their failures. All we know is that both species were described as deceptively dangerous in Vrex records. June took the data chip. Thank you, this will help. As he turned to leave, Do-hyun called after him. June, the Vreks have never encountered humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when we're quiet. June nodded. That's counting on. With less than 2 days remaining before the Vreks deadline, June gathered his team in a secure room. Minji had already built prototypes of the devices they would need. Captain Hyun and his squad had studied the approach to the Vreks relay stations. Do-hyun had prepared detailed briefings on Vreks behavior patterns. The plan is complex, June told them as they gathered around a holographic display of Vreks space, and dangerous. Why does everyone keep saying that? Minji asked, adjusting something on one of her devices. We know it's dangerous. Because, Captain Hyun said, no one has ever successfully infiltrated Vreks ships before. No one has tried it our way, June said quietly. The room fell silent as June activated the holographic display, showing detailed schematics of the Vreks fleet positions. They expect us to be loud, he explained. To gather our ships, to make threats to attack directly. He looked around at each member of his team. They don't understand what it means when humans get quiet. Minji raised her hand. But how do we get past their security? Even with my devices, we'll need to get close. For the first time since the crisis began, June smiled slightly. That's why we're going to let them capture me. This is a terrible plan, Director Song said as he paced the small meeting room. You're going to let yourself be captured by aliens who just destroyed one of our outposts? June stood calmly, hands behind his back. It's the only way to get close enough to their main communication relay. Admiral Park, who had joined them for this final briefing, shook her head. I don't like it either, but at this point we have less than 24 hours before their deadline. Our fleet is in position as requested, but a direct fight would cost millions of lives. June nodded. The Vreks expect us to either surrender or fight in a traditional way. They won't expect this. And if they just kill you on sight? Director Song asked. They won't, June said with quiet confidence. They're curious about us, about me specifically. The commander singled me out during our first meeting. Taeho, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. It's true, sir. The Vreks commander seemed bothered by June's silence. After more discussion, Admiral Park finally approved the plan. We'll send a diplomatic vessel as you suggested, requesting more time. You'll be on board as an advisor. She pointed a finger at June. But at the first sign this is going wrong, we pull you out. June nodded, though everyone in the room knew that once he was on a Vreks ship, there would be no easy way to extract him. 6 hours later, the diplomatic vessel Harmony approached the Vreks fleet at the border of Earth Alliance space. Captain Hyun and his team had already departed in stealth ships, heading for the Vreks communication relay stations positioned throughout the nearby systems. Minji had provided them with devices designed to interface with and subtly alter Vreks communications. If everything went according to plan, they would be in position before June's distraction was complete. On board the Harmony, June stood behind the Earth diplomats as they opened a channel to the Vreks command ship. The Vreks High Commander appeared on screen. He was larger than Commander Vrul, with darker skin and 6 arms instead of 4. Earth vessel, he said, his voice deep and gravelly. Your time is almost up. The head diplomat, a woman named Ji, spoke with practiced calm. High Commander, we come to request an extension of your deadline. Moving millions of people requires more time than 3 days. The Vreks made that strange laughing sound June had heard before. You do not intend to move your people. Your fleet gathers at the border even now. All 4 of his black eyes seemed to focus past Ji directly at June. Ah, the quiet one is with you. Has he come up with a plan to save you? Ji glanced back at June, surprised that the alien knew who he was. June stepped forward. High Commander, I would like to discuss terms in person. This clearly surprised the Vreks. After a moment of silence, he replied, You wish to board my vessel? Alone? Yes, June said. The Vreks High Commander considered this, then nodded. Very well. It will be interesting to see what you hope to accomplish. Approach Docking Bay 3. You may bring no weapons. When the transmission ended, Ji turned to June. Are you sure about this? June nodded. Remember, no matter what happens, keep the diplomatic channel open for at least 2 hours. The fleet should maintain its position but not advance. G looked worried but agreed. Good luck. The wreck ship was enormous inside with high ceilings and corridors wide enough for 10 humans to walk side by side. June was escorted by 4 armed Vrex guards to a large chamber where the High Commander waited. Human, the High Commander said, studying June closely. You intrigue me. The others of your kind talk endlessly, make threats, beg for time. But you watch and say little. June met the alien's gaze. I find it useful to observe before acting. The High Commander circled June slowly. Your fleet prepares for battle even as your diplomats ask for peace. Do you think we don't see this? We have conquered 3 systems already. Your resistance will end the same way. I'm curious, June said, about those 2 systems where you failed. The reaction was immediate. The High Commander stiffened, and the guards made sharp clicking sounds with their teeth. Who told you of those? The High Commander demanded. June didn't answer. Instead, he asked, what made those species different? The High Commander regained his composure. Anomalies, nothing more. Your kind will not be so fortunate. He gestured to a large display showing the position of Earth and Vrex ships. Your fleet is outnumbered 3 to 1. Your weapons are inferior. Your only hope is surrender. Throughout this exchange, June remained calm, his eyes constantly moving, taking in details about the ship, the guards, the communication panels on the walls. He needed to keep the High Commander talking for as long as possible. If our situation is so hopeless, June said, why did you agree to meet with me? The High Commander made a gesture that might have been the Vrex equivalent of a smile. Because understanding your enemy's thinking can be entertaining before victory. Meanwhile, across Vrex territory, Captain Hyun and his team had reached the first communication relay station. These stations formed the network that allowed the Vrex fleet to coordinate across vast distances. We're in position, Hyun whispered into his communication device. The signal went not to Earth but to Minji, who was on a stealth ship just outside Vrex sensor range. Perfect timing, Minji replied. June is on board their command ship now. Begin Phase 1 in 3 minutes. Hyun signaled to his team. They wore special suits that Minji had designed to mask their heat signatures and muffle any sound. Moving silently, they approached the station's access point. Remember, Hyun told his team, no weapons unless absolutely necessary. We place the devices and get out. No one should know we were ever here. One of his team, a woman named Jin, handed him the small device Minji had created. It looked simple, just a small metal disc with lights around the edge. But inside was some of the most advanced technology Earth had ever produced. Beginning Phase 1, Hyun said as he carefully attached the device to the station's main communication array. Back on the Vrex command ship, June noticed something subtle. A light on one of the communication panels flickered briefly in a pattern that shouldn't have happened naturally. It was the signal. Hyun's team had successfully placed the first device. The High Commander was still talking, explaining in great detail how the Vrex would divide up Earth territory after the humans surrendered or were defeated. June checked the time. He needed to keep the conversation going for at least another hour for all of Hyun's teams to get into position. Your species seems very dependent on communication, June observed, directing the conversation where he needed it to go. Our historical records show that humans once fought without any long-range communication at all. This seemed to amuse the High Commander. Primitive. The Vrex have always understood that coordination is power. Our ancestors hunted in perfect synchronization long before we developed technology. His voice took on a boastful tone. Our neural networks allow instant communication across our entire fleet. No order is misunderstood, no strategy confused. Impressive, June said, noticing another light flicker on a different panel. The second device was in place. The High Commander leaned closer to June. I grow tired of this exchange. What did you really come here to do, human? To spy? To beg? Or did you truly believe you could somehow change the outcome of tomorrow's battle? June met the alien's gaze steadily and said nothing at all. The High Commander's eyes narrowed. Your silence becomes irritating. He turned to the guards. Take him to a holding cell. Tomorrow, after we crush his fleet, he can watch as we move on to his homeworld. As the guards led June away, he remained silent. But inside, he was counting down the minutes, knowing that across Vrex space humans were moving quietly into position, preparing to show the aliens exactly what they should have feared all along. June sat quietly in his cell aboard the Vrex command ship. The room was bare except for a hard bench and a force field door that glowed blue. He hadn't moved or spoken since the guards put him there 3 hours ago. To anyone watching, he might have seemed defeated or afraid. He was neither. In his mind, June was counting. By now, all of Minji's devices should be in place. Captain Hyun and his team should be safely away from the relay stations. Everything was ready. The cell door suddenly deactivated and 2 Vrex guards entered. The High Commander wants you on the bridge, one said. The deadline has passed. Your fleet will be destroyed. June stood without a word and followed them through the massive corridors of the ship. When they reached the bridge, he saw the High Commander standing before a large display showing both fleets in position. Ah, the quiet human returns, the High Commander said. I wanted you to witness this moment. Your diplomats have failed. Your time has expired. Now you will see the might of the Vrex expansion fleet. June said nothing, but his eyes darted to a communication panel on the far side of the bridge. A small light was blinking rapidly in an irregular pattern. The High Commander turned to his officers. Begin the attack. Target their command vessels first. Yes, High Commander, a Vrex officer with dark red markings said, touching controls on his station. Transmitting attack pattern Vrex 7 to all ships. Nothing happened. The officer tried again. Transmitting attack pattern Vrex 7 to all ships. The High Commander turned. What is the delay? I don't know, High Commander. The system acknowledges the transmission, but the fleet isn't responding. June allowed himself the smallest smile. The High Commander noticed. What have you done? He demanded, striding toward June. Before June could answer, another officer called out, High Commander, we're receiving strange transmissions from our relay stations. The authentication codes are correct, but the orders make no sense. The bridge erupted into chaos as Vrex officers tried to regain control of their communication network. Some ships in their fleet began to move in random directions. Others powered down weapons that had been ready to fire. Cut all automated systems, the High Commander ordered. Revert to direct communication only. But it was too late. The devices Minji had created weren't just blocking communications, they were changing them. Orders to advance became orders to retreat. Targeting data was slightly altered, making precise shots impossible. Authentication codes were accepted, then scrambled. Our relay stations are compromised, an officer reported, panic in his voice. We can't establish secure connections with any outpost. The High Commander turned to June, rage in his black eyes. What have you done to our network? June met his gaze calmly. We didn't disable your communications, he said quietly. We just made them unreliable. Across space, the human fleet watched in amazement as the Vrex ships began moving erratically. Some fired weapons at empty space. Others drifted with systems failing. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Director Song received a transmission from a stealth ship nearby. Minji to Dauntless. Phase 2, complete. All devices are active and working. Better than expected. The Vrex fleet is in disarray. Director Song couldn't hide his surprise. It actually worked. June's plan actually worked. Admiral Park, who had joined the Dauntless for the potential battle, nodded. Phase 3? Yes, Director Song said. Signal. Jinwoo. His fighters can launch now. Pilot Jinwoo had been waiting for this moment. His squadron of 12 small fast fighters had been hiding behind an asteroid near the Vrex fleet. When the signal came, he smiled. All pilots, this is Jinwoo. Execute flight pattern Quiet 1. Remember, fly like June taught us. No standard patterns, no predictable movements. The fighters launched, their engines modified to run almost silently. They approached the confused Vrex fleet from multiple directions. "They're trying to reorganize," Jinwoo told his pilots. "Target their sensor arrays. As planned. Disable, don't destroy unless necessary." The human fighters darted between the massive Vrex ships, firing precise shots at external sensors and communication dishes. Without their network to coordinate defenses, the Vrex ships couldn't track the small, fast-moving human vessels. Back, on the Vrex command ship, the High Commander watched in growing horror as his fleet fell into further disarray. Now small human ships were attacking, moving in patterns his gunners couldn't predict. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Your fighters are inferior. Your weapons are weaker." June, who had been standing silently, finally spoke. "You thought. You understood humans. You studied our ships, our weapons, our bodies. But you missed something important about us." A loud explosion rocked the command ship as one of Jinwoo's fighters hit a major sensor array. "What I don't understand," the High Commander said, grabbing June by the front of his uniform, "is how you coordinated all this without communications we could detect." June didn't resist. "We didn't need constant communication. Each team knew exactly what to do and when to do it. We planned it all before we even approached your fleet." The High Commander's eyes widened as understanding finally dawned. The quiet planning, the silent coordination. He released June and stepped back. "The two species who defeated us, they were the same. They didn't fight the way we expected." Another explosion hit the ship, bigger this time. Emergency alarms blared. "High Commander," an officer called. "Human ships are targeting our fleet's central control nodes. We've lost 30% of our vessel's functionality." The High Commander stared at June. "This was your plan all along. Not to fight us directly, but to turn our greatest strength against us." June nodded. "Your species evolved to hunt with sound and constant communication. Ours evolved to be quiet before we strike. You mistook our silence for weakness." He stepped closer to the High Commander. "That was your mistake." At that moment, the main doors to the bridge slid open. Captain Hyun and 3 of his team members entered, weapons ready. "Sorry we're late," Hyun said to June. "The ship's layout was more complex than your diagram showed." "How did you get aboard?" the High Commander demanded. Hyun grinned. "Very quietly." 2 days later, June stood with Director Song and Admiral Park as the Vrex High Commander signed the treaty. The terms were simple. The Vrex would withdraw from Earth space immediately and would never again threaten human worlds. "I still can't believe it worked," Admiral Park said quietly as they watched the ceremony. "You defeated an entire alien fleet without destroying a single ship." "That's not true," June corrected her. "We damaged many ships, but we didn't need to destroy them to win." Director Song looked at June curiously. "The Vrex High Commander has requested to speak with you alone after the signing. Do you know what he wants?" June nodded. "To understand." Later, when they were alone, the High Commander asked, "How did you know our weakness? How did you know that attacking our communication would be so devastating?" June considered the question carefully. "Because I watched. I listened. I noticed how your species never stops communicating, how you become confused when information isn't constantly flowing." He paused. "And because humans are different, we find strength in silence sometimes." The High Commander nodded slowly. "The Vrex will remember this lesson. When a human gets quiet, you should run," June finished for him. As news of the victory spread throughout human space, a new saying began to circulate among the stars. When the human got quiet, the aliens should have run. And throughout the galaxy, other species began to take note of the strange, quiet predators called humans.